Hello everyone, good morning to all. Today's discussion is on the question. As we are discussing the previous year questions of UPSC mains examination, which will be quite relevant for the UPSC mains exams of 2026, as well as for the UPPSC assistant professor mains examination. So, in both the examination, the answer writing is very much essential, and so we are practicing with the PYQs. And if the time permits, I will also discuss the important concepts and the potential questions which can be asked in the exam. So, first of all, as I have begun with the series of political theory, and in that series, we are discussing the theory of justice, basically the justice theory, and we have seen a few questions related to the John Rawls, and in that series only we'll be proceeding with the another question, that is Rawls theory. We have the another question, that is the Rawls theory is both contractual contractual and distributive. Examine. So this is 15 marker question which was asked, 50 marks question which was asked in the 2017 UPSC mains examination. So we'll understand that how how will be proceeding the answer of this question. So as you can see that there are three aspects which has been asked here. That first thing is that you should understand that the Rawls theory of justice is based on the social contract, and the social contract theory was basically theorized by the Rousseau. We have the John Locke, then we have the Hobbes and Locke, right? So these people have theorized the social contract theory, and they basically wanted to create a state, right? So similarly, that we can say that the in some way the John Rawls theory of justice is also inspired from the social contract traditions, as you can see that he has envisioned the concept of original position and the well of ignorance, wherein the individuals of the society are unfamiliar to their own position, their wealth, their status in the society, and they are basically only familiar with their psychology and existing social inequalities. And for addressing these inequalities, these people will be devising certain principle of justice which will be ensuring maximum benefits to each one, right? So basically when suppose a person is sitting in the in well of ignorance and is not aware of the reality of his position in the society, so definitely if he is sitting in that position, so he will insist upon or will emphasize on the securing certain principles which will guide the justice, which will ensure that his gain is maximum, right? So that is one aspect. Another aspect is the distributive. So you can see that through this conception of original position and the well of ignorance, these people who are the, we can say, the intelligent people basically sitting in the well of ignorance and deciding upon the framework of justice, has reached to certain principles, right? So these principles, which are basically classified by the John Rawls and in the lexical order. Lexical order is a kind of, you can say, the priority of the rights. So first is the equal basic liabilities, that is the social goods, like you can say the rights, freedom, right, all these things. And another thing is that second one is the equal opportunities to all. And the last is the most important one, that is basically the that is the that least advantage, right? So inequality is allowed if it benefits the least advantage section of the society. So these are the basically kind of principles, and these principles are becoming the fundamentals of distributive justice, or justice of the fairness. So this is the idea, and we'll also link that how this distributive justice and contractual justice, right? I have already discussed this one, and then we'll see the criticism of this his theory, that as we can see that the people like that communitarians has criticized them, that that if you are saying that the individual is the individual as a isolate and isolated from the social society, but that is not possible, because everything which is basically coming to the an individual is decided by the society itself. So social embedded, that the individual is socially embedded, right? Another, you can say that there are also a sphere of justice, right? So all these things are there. And another critic like utilitarians are there. They are criticizing that the laws have given priority of the least advantage over the maximizing the overall happiness of the society. So all these things are there, and so all these will be writing and the answers. So let us start with it, right? So you can start, right? Like, so we are writing this one. Rawls theory, sorry, just a minute. Rawls theory of justice. Aims to secure fair distribution fair distribution of primary goods. Primary goods includes liberty, justice, wealth, opportunities, right? So all these things are there, which aims to secure the fair distribution of primary goods, includes liberty, opportunities, and justice, right? So all this through a framework of principle of justice rooted in the rooted sorry justice framework of principle justice created through the created through the original position original positions, which include, which is basically, hypothetical situation rooted in the social contract, rooted into the social contract traditions, right? Or you can say, right, you can write better that which hypothetical situation to create a contract under veil of ignorance, impartiality and fairness in individual is ensured by, under veil of ignorance, impartiality and fairness in individual is ensured by an agreement, right? In the contractual aspect, if you see that in contractual aspect, roles followed, social contract traditions of Locke, Rousseau and Kant, right? Who emphasized that legitimate political authorities comes from the social contract according to Rawls. Original position, individuals in it would rationally choose principles that ensure fairness as they do not know their future place in the society, right? So this idea is basically linked to the social contract. This idea is linked to the social contract and extends beyond that by focusing on fairness rather than mere consent to authority, right? Next is Ross theory distributive. Why? Because he introduced two principles of justice, two principles of justice. First, guarantees the equal basic liberties for all, and second, the second allowing socio-economic inequalities equalities only if benefits only if it benefits the least advantaged, right? So you can say that the Rawls theory is basically, so you can say the Rawls theory is basically committed to what? Is committed to fairness and equality of opportunities. Equality of opportunities, which aims to secure, aims to ensure that everyone, irrespective of their background should have same chance to succeed, right? Now we need to see that, thus we can say that Rawls theory effectively links contractual and distributive aspects as original position, formed, embodies contractual agreement, leads directly to a framework of justice, framework of justice, that is difference principle, which governs how resources to be distributed, right? So now next is this, we can say the role respect for individual dignity and fairness. As we can say roles respect for individual dignity and fairness, similar to Kantian ethics, or category ethics ensure that social contract leads to just outcomes for all, not just the powerful or privileged, right? Now coming to the another aspect is criticism. So roles distributive aspects faced criticism from libertarians. Why? Libertarians like whom? Libertarians like Robert Nozick. Robert Nozick, he argued, sorry, he argued that roles distribution, role redistribution principles violates individual property rights and oversteps the legitimate role of the state, right? Utilitarians critique roles for prioritizing the least advantage over maximizing overall happiness. Sorry. However, you can write, however, you can write, however, Rawls' idea of justice being contractual and distributive in nature provides a foundation to and build an evolutionary and adaptive theory of justice which can serve the need for of time in political discourse of justice discourse of justice. So that's all for today. Basically, this idea, as he has criticized for being the contractual and distributive justice, right? So this idea was basically though criticized, right? But it has led to the framework of justice, which was very much essential, because you can say that the traditional theory of justice was basically embedded in the society, right? So they are mainly emphasizing on the justice, right? But over the period of time, like the behavioralist has emerged, and they have basically diluted the conception of justice, which was basically linked to the society, right? They are more emphasizing on the fact and values, fact basically, and values are missing. So in that crisis, basically, the theory of justice um, propounded by the John Rawls was a kind of, you can say that it was a revival of the traditional theory of justice, and ensuring the political science remain the social science, right? So all these things were there. So that is not right. You will be writing the thing which I have told you in my answer writing practice, and you can replicate these answers 2 or 3 times and try to that save the ideas in your own words, and that will be very much beneficial to you, because these are static portions, right? So I have seen so many concepts are being repeated in number of examinations, and that's why for the static part we must ensure all the concepts are addressed, right? All the concepts are discussed here. And for the time being, I also discuss the John Rawls theory of justice, libertarian theory of justice, feminist theory of perspective of justice, right? So I will also discuss the theory also, so that you don't have the problem in recollecting the ideas and writing your own ways of writing the answers, right? I have seen so many that thing is that the contents are there, but we are not, though we read the context, we read the books and all, but we are not able to frame the answers. So idea here is that we should know how to frame the answers and how to apply our learned concepts in writing the answers, right? So this is basically our idea, and we'll continue this series uh, as long as our mains are not held, right? So basically in the 2 3 months we'll be going through all these concepts, right? I will be discussing in the part of A, that is political theory, right? Then we western political thoughts and Indian political thoughts, right? We also discuss the paper 2 and 2A 2B, right? Everything we'll be discussing. So you have to be the, if you like my videos, you can subscribe my channel. And that's all for today. I will discuss the another thing in the next class. Thank you.